So many of our kids are now shut-ins, devoid of personal interaction. We gotta get out of our bubbles. We gotta mingle. It's time to mingle.
I know what's wrong with America. We're living in an age of conflict brought about by disconnect, which has frayed the fabric of our nation. It has polarized our politics. It has harmed the mental health of our kids. But I think I know how to fix it. At long last, welcome to the Mingle Project. Go forth and mingle. Thank you. Anyone who has watched the full-length Mingle movie or seen me speak live knows that at a certain point in my discussion of self-sorting, I often administer a brief quiz. I ask questions including the following. Have you ever walked on a factory floor? Have you ever had a job that caused something to hurt at the end of the day? Do you know who Jimmy Johnson is, and are you thinking football or NASCAR? Ever bought a pickup truck? Have you gone fishing in the last 5 years? How often do you eat at Denny's or IHOP? Since leaving school, have you ever worn a uniform? Did you ever hitchhike or take a long-distance bus trip? Have you ever watched an episode of Dr. Phil all the way through? What does Branson mean to you, Missouri or Richard? This ingenious quiz was designed to show members of the new upper class how isolated they've become. These questions could be answered by ordinary Americans in a heartbeat, argues my next guest. If you had a lot of yes answers, well, congratulations. The more you said yes, the thinner your bubble, the less your divide. The quiz was crafted by Dr. Charles Murray, the author of a seminal book published in 2012 called Coming Apart. Murray is a policy analyst educated at Harvard and MIT, currently serves as the Hayek Emeritus Scholar at the American Enterprise Institute. He's the author of several influential books, including The Bell Curve, Coming Apart, and Facing Reality. And his most recent book is called Taking Religion Seriously. Dr. Charles Murray joins me now. Dr. Murray, great to see you after all these years.
Good to see you, Michael.
I still have my dog-eared copy, personally inscribed, Coming Apart, and I've been so eager to discuss this with you. Let's start with the quiz. How and why did you come up with the quiz?
I was trying to get across to my audience something that they didn't know. It's a problem like a fish doesn't know it's in water. Well, people on the Upper West Side don't realize that they are in a bubble that separates them from ordinary Americans, and they have no idea what life is like on the other side of that bubble.
And in Coming Apart, as you told the story of these polar opposites, you used real towns, but you used them in a more of a figurative sense. You used Belmont in Massachusetts, which I remember Mitt Romney, that was his homestead when he was governor. Right. And then closer to me in Philadelphia, you used Fishtown or Kensington, some would say. Talk to me about why you chose those two locales.
I did choose them as allegories, so that Belmont was the home not only of Mitt Romney, but of my co-author in The Bell Curve, a professor at Harvard, Dick Herrnstein. And Fishtown was one of the few in 2000 when I was coming up with data on this stuff. Fishtown was one of the very few white working class urban neighborhoods left in the country. And I was writing a book and then Coming Apart that focused on whites. Very simple reason. I learned with the Bell Curve that whenever race comes into the picture, it brings so many ancillary and distracting issues. I wanted to say to my audience, look, the problems I'm talking about should not be confused with racial problems. These are problems that are affecting America. And the way you know that they're affecting America across racial lines is they're happening with whites as well as with blacks.
The way that I interpreted that, I'm doing this from memory, is that you were talking about social cohesion or a lack thereof, and you didn't want individuals to ascribe to what you were coming up with a racial component that didn't exist.
Actually, that's true. And another thing is that I was talking about what I called the founding virtues, which included honesty and industriousness and marriage and religiosity. And so if you're high on those, that's good. And if you're low on those, it's bad. And again, I didn't want the racial issue to come in here. Whites have problems in all these areas. And I wanted the audience to understand that.
Dr. Murray, this is really not a left versus right issue as I see it. It's a cultural phenomenon or a cultural problem, but you're the author of Coming Apart, so set me straight.
Yeah. And Michael, I explicitly avoided going into what I thought the causes of these problems were, because my diagnosis of the causes are from a conservative perspective or close to a libertarian perspective. And that was kind of irrelevant. What's relevant is what is right now. And that is not a partisan issue. It crosses party lines. Conservatives can be in every bit as isolated a bubble as elite bubble as liberals.
So I'm on a crusade of sorts. I've become an evangelist for restoring common experience. I call it the Mingle Project. And the more that I read the social science and have interviewed the political and social experts, I'm thinking about Bob Putnam, and I'm thinking about Bill Bishop. I'm thinking more recently about Jean Twenge and Jonathan Haidt, Richard Louv, who wrote Last Child in the Woods, and so many more. But the more that I've been reading and studying and thinking, the more I think of you. Because you're the guy. I mean, when you wrote Coming Apart, you were prescient. And unfortunately, the book has aged well. But you were talking about what Putnam would describe as a loss of social capital. If the people of Kensington aren't interacting with the people of Belmont, then there's a problem, especially for the people of Kensington, because they're not getting a leg up on the economic ladder. Isn't that what it's all about?
There's another problem too. Because people say to me, "Oh, come on, the working class people are in a bubble of their own. It's just different from the bubble in the upper class." Well, there's a difference. If you're a truck driver in Tulsa, Oklahoma, you may be in a certain kind of bubble, but what you do in your job does not affect the lives of everybody else. If the Secretary of Transportation in Washington, D.C. is a member of the elite bubble and he or she has absolutely no idea what the working life of a truck driver is, they are going to come up with regulations and rules and policies that make life miserable for the truck driver. That is a problem. And I think a great many of the policy errors of the last 20 or 30 years can be blamed on an elite that doesn't know what the hell is going on in the lives of ordinary Americans.
Dr. Murray, hold that thought. Got to take a short break. Then we'll come back with Dr. Charles Murray and talk about his 2012 book. He's written a lot of them, Coming Apart.
This is Parks.
This is how you roll, this is how it goes. This is how you pop, this is how you rock. Take a chance, do a dance, little romance. This is how you This is how you excite, this is how you all night. 360 hit me, now we're going all in. I can feel it calling, the crowd, the light, the night, the sights, the vibe is right. This is how you This is
Parks, Pennsylvania's #1 casino experience. This is how you win.
Hey gang, I'm Michael Smerconish. Welcome back to Mingle Project episode 6. Dr. Charles Murray wrote this phenomenal book, Coming Apart, in 2012. He's my guest. So you wrote Coming Apart, and it was published, I should say, in 2012. And then 10 years later, Raj Chetty, the economist at Harvard, came out with a study, and the New York Times put his findings on the front page of the paper. I'm going to put it up on the screen and show everybody what that headline said, which was just really amazing. There it is. Wealthy friends may be ticket out of poverty. He found that growing up in a community connected across class lines improves kids' outcomes and gives them a better shot at rising out of poverty. And then there was this remarkable finding. Cross-class friendships, I'm sure this will not surprise Charles Murray at all, cross-class friendships had a stronger impact than school quality, family structure, job availability, or a community's racial composition. Confirmation of everything you were talking about in Coming Apart. And in his case, it was based on 72 million Facebook users and their zip codes. Your thoughts?
Well, one thing, by the way, Raj Chetty does wonderful work, and
Agreed,
this is
yeah.
not a criticism of his work at all. But when people hear that, oh, living next to wealthy people can improve the chances, then they say, great, let's move a bunch of people from the inner city out to places where wealthy people live, and that'll solve our problems. I'm sorry. People can learn to respect if they're in the bubble, the elite bubble, they can learn to respect the working class. That's not a problem. But what you do not want to do is force them to go into situations which make them uneasy about their safety of their children, the education in their schools, and so forth. So you better find ways to get this mingling to go on that do not artificially try to bring people together. It's got to be choices of people living near each other. In my case, I'm not going to hold myself up as a paragon. It just is a fact that my wife and I, in 1989, moved out to a small town in rural working class slash agricultural Maryland. And in this town, it was our job to adapt to the people who'd been here before, not the other way around. And everybody could get along just fine. But it has to be a voluntary mixing, can't be a forced mixing.
I remember in Coming Apart, you actually sign off from that community to which you had relocated. So, okay, I want to ask you the same question that I've asked of Dr. Putnam at Harvard, which is to say, then how do we do it? I mean, am I supposed to go fishing? Am I supposed to watch Dr. Phil eat at Denny's, hitchhike, take a long distance? What exactly can you tell me practically that we can all do? Because we're all convinced, I can speak for the audience, we're all convinced of the disconnect that you saw coming in Coming Apart.
I would say to people who have jobs in New York City, and right now they're living in Greenwich, a suburb of New York, maybe there are small towns in Connecticut that are perfectly fine places to live, but they aren't all filled with hedge fund managers. And so if you move to those smaller towns, you're just going to be around, in many ways, more interesting people than the hedge fund managers. And you are not going to have to be subjecting you or your kids to social experiments. I'm saying move out there because it will enrich your life. You will find satisfactions in your community you have not found in Greenwich. You will, if you're a religious person, you may very well find satisfactions there, and the family is going to function very well there. Do it for your own self-interest. And I think it's members of the elite that have to take the lead in this.
And Dr. Murray, I've been eager to tell you this. You've been to my house. I hosted you in my backyard. You met my family. You met our kids when they were a heck of a lot younger. And I've been very fortunate. I live in a nice house. The home in which I grew up was decidedly different, decidedly middle class, 30 feet separating us from the home next door, 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, no shower. The neighborhood comprised of school teachers, contractors, a mailman, the fire chief. I could go on and on and on, but you get the picture. And if I had it to do over again, I would rethink living in the big house that I was able to afford and having the nice expansive backyard where there was a lot of distance from one house to the next. David Brenner once joked that the main line of Philadelphia is a neighborhood where every other house is missing. And as I reflect on my own childhood and the childhood of our kids, they're significantly different and not necessarily in a better way.
Let me amend what I just said about small towns. We live near to a place called Frederick, Maryland. Frederick, Maryland has been growing like crazy, but it now has maybe 50,000 people. I want to tell you, if you move to Frederick, Maryland from Washington, D.C., you are not moving to the sticks. You are going to be in a place with good restaurants. You're going to be in a place with lots of other people with advanced educations and so forth. But you will also be in a community that is, Alexis de Tocqueville would recognize, filled with voluntary organizations which are drawing from people throughout the community, which are vibrant. It isn't just small town America. I think the big divide, Michael, in this country is not racial, it's not economic, it's between small city and on down and the big cities. The big cities simply have a culturally completely different way of life from an awful lot of the rest of America. including small cities.
I'm using the word mingle because I've taken it from Bill Maher. I give him attribution all the time, but it's Maher who said that the problem in the country is we don't know one another because we no longer mingle with one another. And Dr. Murray, when I think about my parents' experience, you know, dad in the Rotary Club, dad in the Masonic Lodge, mom in Eastern Star, mom raising funds for the local hospital, both of them belonging to the Moose Lodge, and all of the social capital that came from their involvement, I think that's what's most lacking today. So I would say even if we don't physically move, because we can't all do that, there are ways that we can enhance our opportunity to meet people that are dissimilar to us. Your final thoughts?
Well, it's hard to do though, Michael. That's if you don't live in a community which has those different groups in reasonably close physical proximity, I'm pessimistic about how much you can enhance your mingling.
If you were writing Coming Apart again, is there anything that today in 2025 you'd want to say or say differently than you said when the book came out? Or did you get it all right the first time?
I wish I could say that some of these trends have turned around. I don't see it. On the contrary, the political divide is certainly polarized, as we both know. People are more likely than ever to consider that people on the other side are evil as well as different from us. And I would like to be a little bit more upbeat, but I can't really be optimistic now.
Yeah, as I said, sadly, the book aged well. Sadly, it aged well. Dr. Charles Murray, I've so wanted to reconnect with you. Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to reading your new book. For now, we're talking about Coming Apart, and I hope you're well.
I'm well, and thank you very much for having me on.
Okay, that's Dr. Charles Murray. And so concludes Mingle Project Episode 6. I can't tell you, and PJ, who assists with me, and TC, everybody knows, I've said on radio, you know, Charles Murray, he's the guy who nailed it. Dr. Charles Murray saw it all coming. I've got to digest and decompress and think about the prescriptive elements that he offered, because I get what he says. Unless you're physically in close proximity and living near others, it's going to be very, very hard to do. I think there are things that we can do. We've been through them in the past and we'll talk about them in the future, but he's probably right that there's no substitute for living and breathing and working and associating among people of diverse experience. So, okay. See you on the next Mingle episode. Gang, if you've been watching me on YouTube, first, thank you for that. I hope you're enjoying the daily poll question. I hope you're enjoying the Mingle Project. I hope you're enjoying all the interviews that I do. I don't want you to miss out when I'm next live. It's simple. Click subscribe right below the video and then hit that little bell icon. When you subscribe and turn on notifications, you'll know exactly when to jump in and join the conversation. Go ahead, hit subscribe, click the bell, and I'll see you live right here on YouTube. Thank you.